In Antonio Bird's film, Priest, a character who conducts one of the worst crimes imaginable on a child, the child of the titular priest, says, "I've just seen through the BS, that's all. Inhumane, is it? Unthinkable? Then why go through the trouble of making laws against it? Why does every society in the world put a taboo around it? I'll tell you why. It's the one thing we'd all like to do, deep down in here." This quote is bone-chilling to listen to, due in no small part to the actor, but mainly by the words themselves. This is similar to what the famous Sigmund Freud would call the id, the animalistic parts of our minds that we all possess. To anyone with a basic knowledge of Freudian theory, or who simply knows of "I have no mouth and I must scream," this rant would feel very familiar to them. It's the rant of a man whose ego and superego, his internal and external morality, has lost the battle with the id. This is the tale of many men throughout modern history. Albert Fish, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Fred West, and the man we'll be talking about today, Tsutomu Miyazaki, the Otaku killer, and the song inspired by one of his gruesome murders, Crushed Mary. But first, to understand the man, we must understand the rat. Apologies if I mispronounce the name. Tsutomu Miyazaki was troubled at a young age. Born prematurely with deformed wrists and hands with elongated fingers which resembled a rat's claws. At first, he was a solitary but successful student, while also being bullied for his deformation. As time went on, however, his grades sharply plummeted, with him not being able to pursue his favorite university and instead took a course as a phototechnician. When his grandfather died, a person who Miyazaki thought was the only one who actually cared for him, he turned from a social outcast into a self-made pariah. He would spy on his little sisters as they showered, which resulted in them and his mother physically attacking him at times. Rightfully so, in my opinion. He also became an avid collector of the worst kind of entertainment media, if you catch my drift. There was no depravity that didn't get his rocks off. His classmates said how he had an inferiority complex due to the size of his penis, which could explain his sick proclivities. Eventually, all the girls on screens and paper sheets weren't enough for him. His id was taking control, and in a society that had not made Miyazaki's favorite nighttime activities illegal, it wasn't as if the ego and superego were putting up much of a fight in the first place. So he went out to find his first victim of 4. In August 1988, merely one day after Miyazaki's 26th birthday, he abducted 4-year-old Mary Kono. I'll get into what he did to her later in the video, as well as direct you to a couple of sources, with one in particular being a very good example of a YouTube hidden gem. For now, there is one other piece of media I would like to discuss before getting into the song. That being the infamous game, Sad Satan. If you were someone like me who was raised on the internet, then this game requires no introduction. A surreal and harrowing experience that, depending on who you ask, either holds the confessions of a pedophilic murderer as some creepy piece of malware to draw people into unintentionally giving up their information, or simply another creepy indie game. Regardless, the themes of the game itself are clear to see, with people such as Jimmy Savile, a famous and charitable radio DJ, children's TV star, and sadistic child predator, and unofficial head of Broadmoor Hospital, home to some of the most dangerous of the criminally insane in the UK. He is seen next to Margaret Thatcher, a known friend of his and former PM of the country. The image seems to be from a charitable event for the NSPCC, or the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Savile would use his reputation and fame to get access to terminally ill children in hospitals. Yet, despite the fact the doctors already knew he was a pedophile and a sadist, even going so far as to have an inside joke that the lunatics have taken over the asylum. After all, what could they have done? The game also shows Rolf Harris, another famous children's entertainer from the UK who was convicted of 12 indecent assaults on both women and girls as young as 8. With Miyazaki himself joining this lineup of sadists, rapists, and truly some of the worst that humanity has to offer. Well, now that the background has been established, and you now know the type of person we're dealing with, I believe it's time to discuss the song itself. This is Crushed Mary. The image on screen is difficult to interpret, but if you look closely, you can make out the image of a little girl. She's wearing a red dress with white shoulders and a pink backpack. Her head is, however, missing. A large black cloud is coming from her neck stump with what appears to be a little red dot, seemingly her eye. Tendrils also seem to be coming from her body and unwrapping the screen in some kind of wire. Also, her headless body is staring at what seems to be a pulsating wall of darkness. The music itself is ambient, with it being almost kind of relaxing. And the lyrics start, however. Any hope of this being a relaxing listen goes right out the window. A voice asks, "Mary, where are you?" With the little girl speaking, seemingly knowing Mary in some way. The audio suddenly becomes distorted with loud bumps, dips, and heavy corruption. Later, the image mirrors in on itself, with it now looking like some kind of Rorschach test. The tendrils surrounding the screen now holds the shape of what appears to be a brain, with the reflected image of the little girl still standing, now back to back with her mirror image. The question, "Mary, where are you?" still being asked. Later, the text changes to, "What? You were here?" And the audio really loses it. Heavily distorted carnival music, and the song ends with a slight clap. This song is rather ambiguous in the vocaloid fandom, with not many knowing of its true nature, or even what the image in the video means. But I promise I will explain all. The title of the song itself is in reference to what Miyazaki did to the body of Mary Connor. I will not get into the worst of the acts, as they are not required for the explanation, and that isn't what I would like to do with this channel. I would only get into such deeds if they were necessary for the explanation of the song. I do not want this to be needlessly graphic. But I will lead you to a channel that is better suited than I for this kind of content. After murdering the girl, he left her body in the woods to decompose before later returning for her hands and feet, which he kept, and were later recovered by police upon his arrest. All remaining bones were charred in his furnace and pulverized into dust, which he sent to her family in a box alongside pictures of her clothes, some of her teeth, and a postcard that read, "Mary, cremated." bones, investigate, prove. Miyazaki was later caught when he tried to take pictures of two little girls in a park and was attacked by their father. He ran, but later returned to his car with a police ambush waiting for him. He was to be given the death penalty for his actions, with his family disowning him, and his father later committing suicide, blaming his son for his death. Miyazaki was unmoved and unrepentant, to the end as he blamed everything on his alter ego, Ratman. As I said, I promised to direct you to some different channels that could help you understand the true nature of his crimes. If you truly are curious, I recommend the channel Deadbug. Just simply look up the Otaku Killer on their YouTube channel. It's a truly stellar video. Now then, once again, this is part of the video where I would leave you with some final remarks, go off a bit on script, and once again give you a little goodbye message. But today I would like to try a little something different. I would like to read you a poem. If that is something you will not be interested in, then click off. But I felt like, after reading about such a disgusting, terrible man, needed some way to express the disgust I felt for him. And I tried to do so through my writing abilities. If you do not wish to read it, then click off. But if you wish to stay and read and let me read you my thoughts, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. A beast and monster, born to deformity, weak-minded, weak-bodied, drawn to depravity. Animal and man, no disparity. Deformity, depravity, his dark reality. A world of the sane and pure, a man of pain to the immature, sick and twisted, vile and sadistic, quick yet convicted, bile and hedonistic, blood-soaked cloth covered in bone dust, mud-covered flesh soaked in demonic lust. A swift end to the Ratman, a swift work day to the hangman.